From Fanrag Sports headquarters here in Phoenix, Arizona, my name's Jaime Eisner, alongside the director of content for today's Slapshot, Franklin Steele, and we're going to break down Game 7 of the Western Conference Final between the Anaheim Ducks and Chicago Blackhawks. Franklin, not a lot of... That is my name, Franklin. Awesome job. But this hockey game, not a lot of people are surprised the Chicago Blackhawks got here. That's an early favorite to win it all in the preseason. They were a favorite coming in. Despite finishing with the best record in the West and winning their division, not a lot of people were picking the Anaheim Ducks to get here.
You weren't.
I certainly wasn't. I was sleeping on the Ducks. I was so worried about, waiting for them to fail or, because of their just mediocre Corsi numbers. And it's just...
Corsi?
Well, excuse me. Shot attempts percentage numbers.
Get the cup.
Another quarter in the Corsi jar. But I think one thing everybody forgot while we were looking for all the faults that the Ducks have, that's a really solid team. They have a lot of depth on the defensive end, and they've got a top line that can play with anybody in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I was that actually a quarter? You've been kind of skimping on the change. Is that a quarter, a dime? No.
Let the record show, for those on Periscope watching live and on Fanrag Sports, it is a quarter.
It's a quarter. All right.
It is a quarter.
You're in the clear.
25 cents.
25 cents. Put it back. All right, so the Ducks. I know that we kind of did some interesting research before the playoffs started, based on teams that had beaten other teams of certain seeds and that kind of thing. And there were some questions about whether or not the Ducks were going to falter. I think we thought that there was a possibility that they could bow out in the first round.
I certainly did. I mean, the story I did predicting past results on today's Slapshot, teams like the Ducks frequently struggled with teams like the Jets, and I thought there was a really good chance that Anaheim would be out early, and they ended up sweeping the Jets, although it was a much closer series than the final totals look like. But you can't deny it. They beat the Jets, they beat the Flames, and now they're at Game 7 with the Chicago Blackhawks. They're for real. There's a point in the postseason where you have to stop looking about what happened in the regular season or about maybe what the past numbers say. You have to look at how they're playing right now, and they're playing just as well as any of the four teams remaining.
Right. I'd be curious to see what this series would look like if the Blackhawks had all of their healthy defensemen.
More than four would be nice.
More than four defensemen would be solid, but that's not where they're at. They're going into the Game 7, and I really think the forward depth, like you said before, is a lot better than people maybe assumed it would be. Ryan Kessler, when we're going to talk about him in a little bit, has been fantastic. Probably one of the best trades we've seen in the last couple years. Not really trading a big piece of the roster and being able to get something that Chicago hasn't really been able to acquire, and that's an actual number 2 center.
Yeah, I mean, if going into that Kessler trade a little bit, I mean, they moved Nick Bonino, Lucas Spiza, a first-round pick to turn to Jared McCann, and a third-round pick to get a bona fide number 2 center that could play number 1 role on a lot of teams. That's a valuable asset. And like you said, something Chicago's been searching for forever. Brad Richards, Antoine Vermette, Andrew Shaw, Patrick Kane for a little bit at the center spot.
Good center.
That at some point, they're going to need that number 2 center to put him over the top. Anaheim has that right now.
Yeah, and they do. And you can see it. They've been able to get that matchup going between him and Taves. Watching those two super, super competitive dudes battle for every square inch of ice. I don't know that I've ever seen Taves really get pushed around like this, like you see even in the great, Red Wings Blackhawks series. It's kind of, Zetterberg or Datsuk going around and lifting his stick and kind of Kessler's in his kitchen, and I think it showed in the first couple games that Taves really didn't like that very much. I wouldn't like it very much.
Anaheim's been extremely physical. I mean, that's if you watch these games, that's the one thing you really got to point out. And the hit stat and the way that's recorded, you don't want to put a ton of stock into it, but just watching how they're playing, they are on Chicago, especially behind both nets, all the time. And it's starting. You could see it in certain times. It's starting to wear on them a little bit. And going back to what you were saying with Kessler and Taves, they faced up a lot against each other when Kessler was in Vancouver versus Taves, USA, Canada, and International. I mean, those two guys are no strangers to going head to head.
Do you think they're going to go to each other's birthdays this year?
I don't know if they're going to exchange Christmas cards.
Maybe.
But maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe the NHLPA's got a little
Christmas
shindig
card
they can get
exchange?
together. Yeah.
Secret Santa.
What would a
call.
Jonathan Taves birthday party look like?
Probably.
I mean, Captain Serious over there. What would a party like that look like? Would there be balloons, or is that just not
I'm thinking
serious
like a
enough?
jazz record, maybe a nice scotch, a cigar.
Just sitting on a recliner, just laying back and just
He's
sipping, just perusing around. Or maybe in one of his Stanley Cups, just sits there.
He's watching right now, and he's shaking his head.
I'm sure.
Knows.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we don't know anything about wine. He probably knows.
Except Jonathan.
But speaking of Taves and speaking of superstars in this series, Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane for Chicago, Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf for Anaheim. Right now, today, contracts aside, you could pick one of those pairings to be on your team. Who do you go with?
It's so tough, I mean, we even talked about that we were going to talk about this before he came on, and the question kind of
we prepare. We're professionals,
right?
We're professionals.
Kind of locks you up a little bit. Do you take the kind of more bruising physical presence of a Getzlaf Perry? Those guys have rings too. People say, hey, Taves, Kane, generational talents. They have, X amount of championships, 5 before they're 25, yada, yada. Getzlaf, Perry did the same kind of thing. They're the same kind of presence. In a playoff series, I mean, I don't know. Could I have like Taves and Perry or Getzlaf and Kane?
That's not the game, Franklin Steele.
No crossover.
We had specific rules for this game.
All right. Well,
it's as simple as that.
Probably gonna
pick your poison.
Probably gonna have to go with the Blackhawks duo. I might change my mind by this time tomorrow. But
he's already changed your mind. I can see it in your eyes.
Right now, yeah, I can feel the heat coming from Blackhawks Twitter coming my way.
I mean, from a pure just skill offensive standpoint and defensive standpoint, you go with Taves and Kane. But in terms of if you needed them to play together,
right?
Taves and Kane have not always played together 5v5. Actually, a lot of times they don't play together 5v5. Perry and Getzlaf have been locked at the hip for what feels like forever now.
They're hard to do.
And if I have one line, you're saying I have to pick one line, I'm going to take Getzlaf and Perry because I know they can play together and have success. And again, Patrick Kane, as you always say, Patrick Kane needs the puck to have success. Both Getzlaf and Perry don't need it to be successful.
I also say Patrick Kane is a cold-blooded killer out on the ice because that guy has some serious finish. I know clutch isn't a real thing, but it's a real thing, and Patrick Kane has it.
He does, but you can take him out of games. Again, you're nitpicking at the top. We're nitpicking Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves, Corey Perry.
You can rub him out.
But it's more if you want give me two guys that are going to play together on a line right now, I'll take the two guys in Anaheim.
That's fair.
But goaltending now. We all know the offensive ability these teams have. We all know at least the top part of their defensive course on both sides. We'll get into what the hell Chicago's trying to do with their defense in a second.
Right.
The two goaltenders, Frederik Andersen, Corey Crawford. Crawford's kind of been here before. Andersen has not. Both not playing so well lately. Andersen's allowed 13 goals in the last 3 games. Corey Crawford's allowed 11 in the last 3 games. Is this like the first one to get to 7 is going to win this game 7?
I was thinking 9. I was taking 9-6 as the over. No, there's been a lot of goals, a lot of big goals. Neither team has really been able to protect those late leads. We saw the Ducks have a meltdown in 2 minutes. They're up 2 goals and Taves nets 2.
And that second one just from a ridiculous angle.
Yeah, that doesn't go in very often.
But he knew it from the start. I mean, he takes that shot intending to score there. I mean, that's going back to the argument, just hockey sense and the ability to get that done.
Get the puck in the net,
one of few players in the world that makes that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Crosby would have made it from his backhand there, but I'm just no. But no, I think I don't think that this is going to be a goaltending duel. And again, because I said that, it's going to be 1-0 and
1-0 triple overtime. Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's going to be a 4, 5, 6 goal game. First goal's obviously important, but I think the lead going into the third, doesn't necessarily mean what it usually would. If a team's down 3-1 in this series, are they thinking, oh man, we can't get back into this? No, not after the first 6 games. So this is going to be a really fun hockey game, obviously. But yeah, it's going to be, can they make those big stops? They haven't been able to make those big stops so far. It could be the difference between life and death in this series.
Life and death.
Could be a big save. Could be a big save.
On Chicago's end specifically, though, Crawford hasn't struggled quite as much, at least statistically, as Andersen has. But how much of that's to attribute to the fact that Chicago's basically playing 4 defensemen the entire game? Whenever they put their bout on pairing, whether it's whatever combination of Timonen, Rundblad, Comiskey, the puck ends up in the back of their net usually, and they're just not playing very often. I mean, how is it a testament to Chicago that they take a team like the Ducks to the 7th game of the Western Conference Final, could very well win it with 4 defensemen?
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes about what kind of quality defensive abilities their forwards have. Those guys like Hossa that can come back and make those defensive plays. Taves, Shaw's better, decent in his own zone. I think if they have kind kind of more one-dimensional players, and that's okay. Like if you score goals, that's really important.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
A little bit.
It's the hardest thing to do.
It is. It's the most valuable skill in the game. But when you have those guys that can back check, make those
Phil
plays,
Kessel, excuse me.
You okay?
Excuse me, sorry.
Phil Kessel?
Apologize. He's
but-
terrible, right? Yeah, got to get him. He's the problem in Toronto. But I'm sorry. I digress. Western Conference Final. Go ahead with your Blackhawks.
Yeah. So just the ability to play two-way, for their top 6 or even the top 9 forwards to be able to play, and back check the way that they do, is really making that kind of shoddy group, that third pairing, look a little bit better than it would, and they really don't look that good anyway. But it would be a lot worse if it was, I don't know, pick another team that doesn't have Taves and Shaw and those kind of smart two-way players.
Yeah, I mean, their ability to, guys like Marion Host, guys like Shaw, just their ability to, the forwards to play two-way games really is saving the Blackhawks behind
A lot of pressure.
all postseason, and even in the regular season. Because people remember, I mean, before Michael Russell got hurt in the postseason, a lot of Blackhawks fans were trying to run him out of town too. Let's not pretend like that they were one injury is the reason why they're here right now. This was a long path to get here. And you know what? It could be a long path going forward. The salary cap monster is going to come back and consume them real soon. Taves and Kane are making a lot of money.
A lot more money.
This team will be significantly different next year, but we're not quite sure how. Is this Chicago's last chance to win a cup, let's say, in the next 2 seasons?
I don't think that their window is going to slam. I just think that the gap between Chicago and some of the other teams that have kind of been chasing them for a few years.
St. Louis.
In Minnesota, those kind of teams that have been asking themselves, how do we get over this hump? How do we get by this monster? And they haven't found a way to do so. I think that it's just going to bring them back towards those teams a little bit. I don't think they're going to be they'll be a little easier to get rid of because they're not going to be as deep. They're going to have to trade somebody. I know that the idea, a lot of people don't like the idea of trading Brent Seabrook. They're not going to trade Keith. They're not going to trade Taves. They're not going to trade Kane. Corey Crawford's going to be their guy in net.
What about Patrick Sharp? That seems to be picking up a little bit of steam. He's probably, for his cost and relative. I mean, they're not giving up Hossa, like you said. They're not going to give up any of their stars there. I'm not so sure it makes sense to give up one of your defensemen. They are thin enough on that core.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and we don't know what players like Trevor and Riemsdyk are going to be yet. I don't think you move a bona fide top pairing defenseman.
No.
Patrick Sharp. I mean, if they can get anybody on the planet to take Bickle's contract, I mean, I think they should. I would throw a second round draft pick with somebody to take his contract. Yeah. But in light of that, is Sharp this quote unquote star that has to go?
I thought that they were going to trade him this summer. To be honest, when they flipped Leddy out instead, I was. Again, I
could really use him right now.
They could. I understand why they don't trade a guy like Sharp. We were just saying guys that score goals are hard to come by. Sharp is mechanically 20 goals, 30 goals. Hasn't slowed down too much as he's aging, but he's getting up there. He's 31, 32.
About that.
So this is usually where players really start to see a drop off. And if there's a team out there that's looking to get to not even the cap floor, but if there's a team that's looking for that complimentary score, I think Patrick Sharp's a pretty good option, just depending on what Chicago gets back. Because they're not going to be able to take NHL talent back for the most part. They're going to have to take picks. They're going to have to take prospects because the whole point of trading
defensemen,
right, or defensemen, up and coming, just
all of the defensemen,
any of them. Yeah, send us your 3 bottom defensemen. We'll take them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think this is kind of a defining moment for Bowman. When he got there, the team was already constructed. Talon, had already kind of put those pieces together and dealt with the exodus of talent the last time they won the Cup. So this is going to be, you don't have Kane under a ridiculously small contract anymore. You don't have this gift of a Taves contract. How do you construct a team? How do you draft? Who do you bring up? So it's going to be fun to watch, just from a management standpoint. It's going to be an interesting summer for Chicago.
And if you remember from the first Cup that they won in 2010, not the first Cup as a franchise, but the first Cup in this era,
right.
They had to blow that team up. Andrew Ladd, Dustin Byfuglien, a lot of these guys had to blow significant parts of their middle 6 forwards up to make this happen.
Yeah.
Will that happen again? It might. I mean, it might mean Patrick Sharp being gone. It might mean a few other guys being gone. And it's just, my thought is, they're going to still be contenders. They're still an excellent team with or without guys like Patrick Sharp. But I think they're not going to be this Western Conference juggernaut like they've been without those guys. I think they're going to be in that third in the Central wild card contention, again, depending on how things go. Which isn't bad, but it's they're... I mean, I thought St. Louis was going to do better than they've done the last few years, so maybe it's not going to matter if the Blackhawks lose a guy, but there's going to be some competition there in that division, and then even if they get in, it's going to be a tougher path. A lot of teams are going to come up to them.
Hawks Wild, that's going to be, I mean, even the Predators, I don't know if they're going to come back down a little bit, if Rene can go in and do what he did again. But that's going to be a really, really tightly contested division, and again, it's just going to be...
I mean, Chicago finished third this year.
Yeah, so you move a guy like Sharp, I don't know how many wins he's worth, but again, you're trying to fill these gaps, you're moving people up, all of a sudden your third and fourth lines get a little bit more shallow because you're moving guys up. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
And Chicago's better than these teams, but like you said, Minnesota's coming. The Jets are not going away. That's a team with a young core. If Colorado can ever get the possession game and defense fixed out, that's a team with just so much young talent.
So much speed.
The Dallas Stars, I think that's a team that really underachieved the first half of the season and came on strong. That's a team to watch.
Yep.
That's a tough division. Like 1 through 7, that's a tough division.
Yeah,
but
no easy games.
No, and it's not going to be easy for them going forward, with or without Patrick Sharp.
Right.
Transitioning to the Ducks here. Old versus new. It's been a few years since the Ducks have flirted with the Stanley Cup. I know this is a topic you really wanted to break down, especially defensively. What are the similarities versus differences you see with the Ducks defensive core from the old Mighty Ducks team to the one we see today?
I think it's just really interesting to watch how these Ducks, from a defensive standpoint, play the game compared to how that cup-winning team did it, which was just through violence. They were just mean, the professional wrestling mean. Like they were, I remember, everybody remembers Pronger, ramming Zetterberg's face into the boards, just like, seriously, like they're trying to hurt you and make sure that you don't come back the next game the same way. And, laying body checks and that sort of thing, that's always going to be the case. But that was a really, really mean, aggressive team. And now, over the past couple of years, they've started to move in a different direction where they can still beat you up. They still have those big, strong, this is still the Ducks, but on the blue line...
Much more skillful.
Yeah, a lot more. And that's not to say, Niedermeyer and Pronger didn't
yeah,
have
the
ability.
They were pretty okay.
Yeah, but they were meaner. Whereas I think these Ducks are quicker and are better at moving the puck up ice, except for Niedermeyer, whose outlet passes were ridiculous and on point. But I just, it's fun to watch guys like Fowler and Lindholm and these younger talents step in and kind of still make that team competitive while not trying to break anybody's neck.
Welcome to the new NHL.
Yeah.
Just being competitive without breaking anybody's neck.
Skill kills.
Skill kills. But one thing the Ducks have not succeeded in recently is Game 7s. They've lost their last 3 Game 7s, a couple of them to Detroit, and most recently to the LA Kings. We talked about this a little bit yesterday in our Game 7 preview for Lightning Rangers, which you can go back and find on Periscope or on Fanrag Sports and today's Slapshot.com. How much stock do you put into the fact that they haven't won a Game 7 in a while? They've lost recently. Do you put any... Because of Chicago is such a veteran team, and they've been there, and they've got 2 rings on their fingers since the last time the Ducks won anything. Yes, Perry and Getzlaf and Beauchemin are still there. Do you put any stock in that they haven't won a Game 7, or is this, the best team's going to win this game, or just another game? It's that factor's not going to creep into these guys' minds. I
don't know if it's as much that they haven't won a Game 7 as much as they just haven't been there. Taves is going to wake up in the morning and he's going to do what Taves does. His day isn't going to change. He knows how he handles Game 7s and he knows how to go about his business. Kane,
Cheerios,
Sharp, whatever he eats. Okay. Keith, Crawford, they've all been there and they've done this. So I don't know how much of a difference that can make, but Cam Fowler's probably going to wake up and feel a little bit different. And I don't presume to understand, Cam Fowler as a person, but I'm assuming, anybody that wakes up and they're going to go into a new situation like that, where if you lose or go home, it's that experience is important. Might be a little overrated on a larger scale, but Game 7, I assume you wake up and you kind of got some jitters. So does that do you skate them out after 3 minutes in the first period? It just from a gameplay standpoint, what happens if Chicago comes out and scores the first goal? Now how do you feel? you're feeling really good this morning, but now you're staring down Taves and Kane, and they know how to bury teams. So how do you bounce back?
What they say, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. And hockey getting punched. Well, you could literally get punched in the face with hockey, but it's also, but you can also score a goal early, and
you got to counter.
To me, it's I haven't played the game at that sort of competitive level to pretend to understand that. But from what players who have played at this level and have played in the finals before, and conference finals and Stanley Cup final, is that after about 3 to 5 minutes, after a couple shifts, it starts to feel like a regular game again. To me, I'm not going to put too much stock into it. I know yesterday I said something about Lundqvist, and it's not because he's 10-0 in Game 7. It's because he's Henrik Lundqvist. Right. And I would pick him.
He's money.
Blind me to the stats. I'm still picking Henrik Lundqvist to win that game. In this case, I'll start first with my prediction this time since I made you go first yesterday. I'm going with the Blackhawks. They were my preseason pick to win the Stanley Cup. They were my pre-playoff pick to win the Stanley Cup. I still think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. They're going to win this game. It's by multiple goals.
You just want the Ducks to lose.
I don't have I don't have an opinion either way about the Ducks. I just think Chicago is the superior team, and if they had 6 defensemen, this series would already been over.
I think the team that scores the most goals is going to win Game 7.
That's very bold of you.
That's my way of saying it.
That's very bold. Way to get out on a limb there.
No, predictions are tough. It's hard to bet against.
It's really not. You have 2 choices. No. You have a 50-50 chance of getting this right no matter what you do. No matter what you say.
My friends always text me. They're like, hey, who's going to win tonight? I'm like, hey.
Who texts with 2 fingers anymore? Do you have a BlackBerry?
Swipe, yeah, I have a BlackBerry with that. But no, it's hard to bet against.
You know who has a BlackBerry? Guy that never own an NHL team. That's a Jim Ball silly joke for those watching right now.
Oh man, all right.
Now we've got our jokes down to only 6 people getting it. I think it's about time to wrap up. So, any final thoughts? Western Conference Final, Game 7, Ducks, Blackhawks, NBC, Saturday.
It's gonna be fun. Come hang out with us. Come hang out with us on Twitter. We'll talk with you. Promise. We'll be floating around watching the games. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be good hockey. I don't know who's gonna win, but it's gonna be fun, and that's what I'm in it for. The fun of it.
It is fun. Stanley Cup Finals are almost here. Got to get through one more game each. Enjoy the back-to-back Game 7s. There's only at max 9 games left in the season. Franklin Steele, I'm Jaime Eisner. Thank you for joining me live on Periscope and on Fanrag Sports and today's Slapshot.